Welcome to my diversity field experience. I'm going to share with you both the interviews I did as well as the experience I had of attending a powwow. The interviews that I did involved two men. They were both father and son. It would have been awesome to do the third generation, but he had passed away. They are both Indian, which they preferred to be called over Native American. They are Ojibwe, and they are part of the Bear Clan. The father of the two that I interviewed had 9 children, one of which passed away, has a master's degree in education, and he has worked in both reservation and public schools. He was a school administrator in public school and was a major voice for students of color. The son has 2 children, is currently trying for a third, and has worked in public school in many different roles. He's been an Indian advocate interventionist, behavioral and educational interventionist, and has also worked in special ed, supporting IEPs and Indian families that have students specifically that were at risk of not graduating. The questions I asked were around school, teachers, and their experience with both, because I am curious to hear the lens that they have based off of their experience, and I want to learn from those around me if there's things I could do differently or how to best support all children as I go into the field. I first asked them how to describe their school experience growing up. The father talked about how he was labeled as a problem child. He didn't like school. He got in a lot of fights. His teachers back then were allowed to hit students with rulers. He even had an experience of a teacher dragging him into the hall and throwing him into the locker a few times. So school was really hard for him. He went to 7 different schools from the time he started school, which was he didn't start until first grade, until high school. But he did talk about how all the Indian students stuck together, and how he didn't have very many non-Indian friends. For the son, he also moved around and went to 9 different schools from the time he was in pre-K to high school, mostly due to his parents splitting up. He got to experience both Indian reservation school as well as public school. When he went to public school, it was a lot. And it was not a great experience. He was the only Indian kid in his class and only one of 3 in his school, and he had long hair, and he got bullied for that, even from teachers, sadly. There were some issues around, for instance, he had a story about gym class and how they would play Indian and cowboys, and how big of an issue that was with his parents and the school. He ended up cutting his hair in 8th grade due to the bullying, and just really enjoyed reservation school a lot more due to it being more cultural. They got to hang out with elders and walk in the woods and learn about medicine. So his school experience was a lot of confusion, a lot of being taught differently from what he was taught by his family, and kind of learning how to balance that. Learning was difficult for the father due to feeling different and feeling like he didn't belong. He also had some really intense experiences with really unkind teachers, and so that was really hard for him to show up every day and want to show up every day to learn. For the son, it was also knowing that he was different, but being made fun of for it. That made it very difficult for him to make friends. He was also going through a lot of identity issues due to being taught very differently than what he was taught in his upbringing, and not being taught the truth. So it was very hard for him to figure out where he fit in and what he wanted to believe. What would have made your learning or school experience better? The father talked a lot about how he could tell when that teachers didn't want to be there and that they didn't enjoy what they were doing. So if he had teachers that wanted to be there and were passionate about it, and cared about building a relationship with the children, that would have made his experience a lot different. The son specifically talked about in public school, it would have made it a lot easier and better for him if he had teachers that looked the same as him, so he didn't feel so different, as well as teachers that were more understanding, were willing to listen to his truth, and celebrated differences, and stopped kids from bullying him, and just were really there for him and understood where he was coming from. The skills and quality that are needed for a teacher to be considered successful in the father's eyes, like I kind of mentioned, are a teacher that truly enjoys showing up every day and enjoys sharing knowledge with children and building that relationship and caring about the children beyond just getting good grades. He did luckily have two teachers in his upbringing that took the time to do those things, to build a relationship, and they made a world of a difference. One has passed away now, but he still visits one, and that really shows the impact that relationship can have on a student. For the son, it's understanding differences and taking the time to do this. He remembers a couple times when he even tried to bring it up to teachers, even in a good way, and they went to defense right away. So it's important to him for a teacher to be successful by taking the time to learn about students that are different than you and celebrating those differences. The father is a recovering person, and his sobriety of 40 years has helped him overcome many adversities in his life. He also realized in his late 20s that the only way for him to get ahead was to get a good education, and so he really focused on that and worked his way up to a master's degree, and that helped him get the credibility that he feels he wouldn't have without it. For the son, he mentioned something he called walking in two worlds, which is basically learning how to be able to fit in with the dominant society and culture, but also remembering where you came from, because where you come from is important in your success. And when you see kids struggling the most with identity issues, it's because that balance is off. Their hope for the children, the father talked about having positive experiences in school, because with a positive experience in school sets you up for many successes. It gives you the drive to push yourself harder and further your own education. And of course, having support from families, friends, and teachers is key, and he hopes that all children get to experience that. For the son, he mentioned how our generation and the children need to really think about how we're leaving our world, and the impact that our actions have. It can leave some very drastic consequences, and for us to think about what we can do to better our world. From these interviews, I really took away that having that student and teacher relationship is most important. You can't get to your learning brain and work on the academic piece without having that relationship first, and that means having teachers that are understanding and not judgmental and take the time to learn and appreciate students' differences, as well as they both talked about having honesty in the school as a whole, in the system, within the teachers and the students, but also the materials that are being taught. The other part of my field experience involved attending a powwow. I went to the annual Fond du Lac Reservation Veterans Powwow this last Saturday. My experience involved the environment, dancing and drumming, and food, and I'm going to go through each of those now. The purpose of this specific powwow was to honor vets. They consider veterans both currently serving and those that have as our warriors. The opening ceremony involved having those serving holding flags of all military and us honoring and welcoming them to start the entire powwow. It was an awesome thing to witness. The environment was a large circle. There were, with bleachers all around. In the middle of the circle is where the announcer was, as well as the dancing and the drumming and the singing happened. On the outer circle was many vendors. They had things such as food, different types of clothing, toys, jewelry, all sorts of knickknacks. And of course, most of it was handmade and just absolutely beautiful and authentic. And it was a great time walking around and kind of seeing the skill and talent that those around me have. One awesome thing that I realized being in the environment was that it was of all ages and generations, and that was truly an amazing thing to see. They had a specific section that was for the elders to sit at that was shaded, and I thought that was very important. And like I said, the layout was a circle, as you'll see in more pictures coming up, which made it very easy to see everything and truly get the experience. One thing you'll notice is I only have a couple pictures. One reason is because I was in awe and forgot, but the other important thing is that you weren't allowed to just take pictures of anybody and anything, especially around the outfits and the dancers and the drummers. For the dancing, there was a lot of different types of dancers. The type of dance you are is chosen based on either a dream or vision you have, or if an elder chooses for you. For the women, just a couple examples. You can be a traditional dancer, shawl dancer. For men, they have chicken dancers, grass dancers, traditional, and throughout the day there were special dances that only specific dancers danced to, and then there were also some that all were welcome to join. There were competitions for dancing going on throughout the day as well. And one thing I wanted to point out was that women wore jingle dresses, which are in this picture. Like I said before, there's the different types of dances based on the purpose. And the drummer sat on the outside of the circle in specific groups. As the day went on, there would be certain groups of drummers that would be chosen for things such as the ceremony openings, which was an honor. Seeing the dancing and the drumming and listening to the singing was my favorite part of the experience. There were dancers from infants all the way to elders, and it really just had this amazing feel and energy that was very consuming and amazing to watch. There was delicious food as well. Throughout the day I tried wild rice egg rolls as well as a BLT on fry bread. Fry bread is a well-known Indian dish. A lot of times it's used for Indian tacos. To me, I would explain fry bread as kind of like a deep fried croissant. Very delicious. Eating the food there just made the experience that much more authentic. Overall, experiencing the powwow was really something that I greatly enjoyed, and I already have plans to attend another one in the near future. I loved immersing myself in the day and being able to experience such a beautiful culture. Thank you.